This may be controversial, but I'm going to say it anyway. We need to stop looking towards the story of Gideon and his fleece as something to be admired and something to be emulated. This isn't a story of an obedient servant of God who has come up with this brilliant hack to discern God's will. Instead, it's actually a story of somebody who is operating under fear. He has weak faith and he doesn't know God well enough to trust that God is going to do what he says he's going to do. If you're unfamiliar with what I'm talking about, in the book of Judges, God asks Gideon to gather an army and go out and conquer this nation. And he says, I will be with Israel. So Israel's going to win this. Gideon gets scared and he essentially tests God and asks God to prove it by saying, send me a sign. I'm going to put this piece of fleece outside my tent overnight. I want you to make all the land wet, but keep my fleece dry. And so God does it. And then Gideon says to him, don't be angry with me. I'm going to ask you to do it again. I'm going to put my fleece out, but this time keep the fleece soaking wet and all the land around it dry. But here's the thing, is both times he asks those for that sign, he says, if you do this, then I will know that you will do as you have said. So he already knew what God was saying. He just didn't trust that God would follow through on it. And we need to make sure that we aren't doing the same thing, because Deuteronomy says, you shall not test the Lord. In fact, that verse is the exact verse that Jesus says to Satan when Satan asks him to jump off a building to prove he's God. He says, it is written, you shall not test the Lord. And we want to make sure that we aren't doing the same thing by taking our fear, taking our weak faith, and taking our lack of trust in God and twisting it, spiritualizing it, and making it sound like it's okay because we really love God and we really want to know his will. Because here's the hard truth. If you really want to know someone's desires, if you really want to know someone's will, you got to get to know them. You got to fall in love with them. So if you're in a season and you're seeking after God's will and you want to make sure you're walking in God's will, open your Bible. Get to know God. Get to know what he says. And when he says it, believe it and trust it, because he will follow through.